There's somebody here. Hi. Sorry if I go back and forth here. Need more than one. Hope you guys can hear me. I think my microphone is working. I don't know if my microphone's working or not. Guess I never tested it out. As far as I know, it's on. Alright, so patterns, repair. Anyway, so that's Gmec. Yeah, okay, great. You can hear me. So I just kind of been piddling around here, guys. So I can kind of start over here, which is not a big deal. So you just open up Gimp, and you got all this. This is how mine's set up. I don't know when you're new at it what their default is. There is I think it's an edit. You go to preferences. So you go under edit, go to preferences, and you can go through here and set up different things. Systems management, that's not no big deal. Color management, I usually don't. Image import, you can change that. Let's see, tool options. Yeah, I think that's not a big deal. Theme, so you can change it to dark. All right, there we are. Gray, that's what mine is. Light, icon theme. Um, let's see what they do here. We'll just kind of play around a little bit. So you can get like that. I'm used to this one. So that's the one I use. And toolbox. So technically what you can see, this is our toolbox over here. So these are all what you can see. And I think most of these are on. Yeah, there's a few other things. So, and a lot of these you can find under. So, you know, how you set it up is under edit, and preferences. So you can change it to what seems, what you like best. So then let's see. So we got that. So we'll get it set up however you want. We'll go over here to Windows, duckable dialogues. So these are this here is everything that I have either over here or over here in the toolbox. So this is basically the toolbox stuff in this middle section here. And these are the ones that might be set up over here. So if you accidentally closed one of these out, well, you can pull them out and you hit the X here and it disappears. You go to dockable dialogues, click on it, and it'll put it back over here. If you accidentally pull it out, just grab it, click on it, hold, and drag it back over there, and then you can move these around however you want. So that's sort of a basic kind of setup for Gimp. So these are all of our tools. I use just layers and paths, and I'll show that. Okay, so if you have any questions, just throw them in the chat there. Okay, so we'll make a new, we'll do a thumbnail. So I was looking earlier, 1280 by 720, that would be a YouTube thumbnail. And you can change this. These things here will change it. And of course, these are sort of, or you can just type it in. So 1280 by 720. And this is pixels. So that's usually what these programs are pixels, but you can change it to inches or whatever you want, centimeters. I've done, my mom, when she was still kicking, was doing a lot of quilting and she wanted little patterns and then she didn't use them. So long story short, she said, well, you used my fancy quilting program. Yeah, I looked at it, about threw it out the window. So I said I can do this in Gimp. I know I can. And so all I did was set everything up in inches and then I could make a block. I'll just show you guys what I'm talking about here. Let's see, blah blah blah. Applique patterns, because it was basically applique. I hope this thing ain't being ornery. Yep, there we go. Nope. here's my quilt ideas. Okay, so I made this one here. I'll open it up. Oh, psh, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I don't know. I guess we can open it up in Gimp. It actually asked me for Gimp. So I made this quilt. It's a little wall hanging thing. And this is a 12-inch block. And so that's what was basing that on. So you got this 12-inch block. So you fit everything into it. So then we'll close this out and I'll go back. This is just ideas. See if I can find. Doodly doodly. I'm gonna do a different one maybe that I have. Is this the one? So in Gimp you can do layers, and as you can, okay, so I'll just cancel this out. So this is similar. I know I have that cat somewhere other than here, but I'm not seeing it. Inner block. Nope, that's the birdie one. Oh, right here. I'm blind. I can't see. It's old age thing. All right. So cat in the moon. So if you look at the image, let's see. Well, if you go to scale image, you can see that when I change it to inches, it's actually a full 16 inch, but this is 12 in here. So then what I did then is you come over here to layers, and each thing I did was layers. So there's the eyes, oops, all gone, and the stitches around the cat. I mean, this is just me playing, but there's the cat. Okay, we'll just take that out. And so you can take images. Yeah, I mean it's basically setting it up is what I did, and then um, let's see if I have. I mean I kind of just, yeah, I scanned in the quilt fabric, and that's what I'd use. So there's my cat. It's just an applique type pattern, and so I'd use that, and then okay, so that's my outer trim. And they give basics on that. So then, okay, so I want my inner block to be, what, 12 inches or whatever it was, or 10, I think it's, and then, so then these blue lines here are basically kind of how I would divide it up, and it helped me figure out where to put everything. So that's just me playing. So yeah, each layer you can do stuff with. So, that's some things that I do in Gimp. Um, let's go back. So I've done a lot of these little drawings here. Some I've found, as long as they're free and open source, you can use them. So let's see if I can find. I don't know if you guys watch some of my other long videos, but when you go to make something, it takes a while. So like this ladybug is in parts. And then of course highlights, wings, dots. Alright, so here's the paths. And this is the tool you use over here. It's called the paths tool. And basically you just kind of scroll it out here. So I think, nope, that's the body. There's the head. I think that was the head layer. Yeah, the head layer. And that's what I did. I just took that path tool, and there's a wing. That's a body section. Anyways, you just kind of experiment around. So that's how I did this little ladybug. And then of course then you highlight and then color, and so you make a little ladybug. Alright, so that kind of shows you some things to do. Alright, so 1280. Alright, and so 1280 by 720 is a basic thumbnail for YouTube. And down here on the bottom, so what I did is File, New, create new image, and then you just set it up. So down here at the bottom it says background. The background is basically your first layer of whatever you're creating, and you can change it. Up here we go, 25%, 50%, 66.7. So, however you're working on it, if you're doing detailed stuff, you can get up real close and, kind of like a micro, uh, one of those quilting micro magnifying glasses. There we go. I'm having a brain fart. And so you can also just use your mouse. I think was it? Nope. I thought so. Oh, it's being ornery now. Don't do that. Don't be ornery. Oh, I have it on letters. That's why. So if you're in something and you want to get out of it, just click on something else on here. So rectangular select. There's the ellipse select tool. This is a free select tool. And so if you're wanting to cut an image out or make one, so like you could change this and making it a circle or an ellipse. You can make a rectangular. It helps in selecting things too, and so there's a little bit of a process there. So select none, because right now we have a selection and I just hit select none. So you might have a picture. Let me go back here to my desktop pictures. Farm update. Yeah. Nope. That's the movie. Can't put that one in there. It won't let me. So you can just drag and drop pictures. So wherever that picture is, just drag it and drop it in. So you can see it added an extra layer in Gimp there. Alright. So you have your picture. No letters. We'll ignore those. So you want to put text in, and you just click on the text, and you'll see it'll pop up, and Gimp has several different, and you can add any free text you can find as long as it's used. Best thing to do when you're getting stuff online is to make sure you can use it for commercial use also, because if you ever become monetized or make some money in something, you don't want the owner of the original whatever it was, whether it be a GIF, artwork or letters or something like that, coming back and going, eh, you know, I mean, just better be safe than sorry. Um, so you got your letters. Here's for this changing the size. Don't usually mess with some of this other stuff. You kind of color. You just click on that, and you can pick your colors. And of course, they have different color wheel kind of situations up here. You can go through. So we'll just leave it white. And then justify, where you put them. So let's make some letters. We'll just make some new letters. And so you take, and basically you start out and it makes you a box. And you can see that you have some things up here. So we'll just go farm, update, whatever. And then if you want to change the size, you can change it here and just go up. And of course you go on these, I hope you guys can see this okay. There's these little corner things here which helps you can adjust. I mean, basically you can adjust anywhere. You can do this, make adjustments. Alright, so as long as this is like highlighted, and you can just type in like you normally would type. If you want to make changes though, you have to have whatever you're doing highlighted. So we want to make it bold. Make sure you have it sort of highlighted, and then you go bold, not italicized, underlined, strike through, etc. Okay, good, you can see it. Alright, and so here's where the justify comes in. Yeah, it's not up in this one, so I think you could here make that adjustment. Baseline of text select, yeah. But here, so we move it over. is way over on the other side now. Here it is in the middle, and then where it covers the whole thing. Uh, so you can, so over on the left hand side here, there's your justify adjustments. And then I think, let's see here, I think that's sort of indentation there. I think that's what that is. Does it come up saying that? Oh, this one would be, so if you have more than one line, we'll just go 2020. All right, so we can see that. Okay, so if you want to space that out farther, that's what that is. And in between the letters, so that's sort of oh, in here you can change your language, I guess, but it's mostly English. So this works on a regular. I mean, some people were asking me, well, isn't that for Linux? And I'm like, well, yeah, originally it was for Linux, but that's been years ago now. And let's see, we'll see how this looks. But they do it for Windows and Apple, and so it's easily used for any software situation. So you got your letters up there. Now it'll show up over here on this layer box on the right hand side. And you just kind of click out of it. So maybe you want to move it. You don't like it where it's at. So then this is the move tool. So maybe we'll just go through the tools quick here. So here's a select tool. It's a rectangular. There's your ellipse one. This is a free select tool. So if you just want to select around something, and then I say you just want to cut it out, and then it disappears. Oh, and if you make a mistake, edit, undo. It has several layers of undo. So select none. This one would be, it's a fuzzy select tool, and you might select it around. Well, here you just click on the outside of the letters, and everything on the outside then. Basically, if you had a color, let's put a color in there just so you can see that. Yeah, I have Windows 10. So we'll see. We'll unselect for a minute here. Okay, so what I did is went to the color. I have colors out here, so I just picked one. If not, you just go through and pick them here. So this color in the front would be active foreground color, and this would be the active background color. Well, we're just going to use this bucket fill tool, and we'll fill it in the background here. So make sure you're on the layer you want, because if you fill it in, alright, we'll just click this off. So it fills the whole thing. If I accidentally filled, we'll just say undo bucket fill. Say I had it on farm update and I filled it, that's how it would fill it in. Might fill everything in, yeah, so you get funky. So if you make a mistake, undo button. Undo button is your friend. So you fill it in. And I was going somewhere with that. Oh yeah, here we are. We'll go back up to farm update. So you take this fuzzy select tool, and of course what it'll do is I selected outside of the letters in that layer. So if you go out and you go and cut it out, and actually in this case, look like it cut everything out. No? Oh, so everything that was painted was cut out. If I was to come down here and do that, okay, say we just edit, cut. Oops, I'm in the wrong layer. See? Make sure you're in the layer you want to do. It's not wanting to work properly. It's being ornery. Sometimes that happens. Cut. Oh, there we go. So then this is what happened. So you can, but it's just giving you some ideas of things you can do stuff with. All right, so there we are. So we'll go back. This is select by color. So if you happen to have a couple of colors and you can select, it depends on what's going on. You can select per the color. I don't use these scissors a lot myself. I don't foreground select tool. I haven't really used that a lot. The path tools I've used to create things. So like, we'll add. Okay, so you want to add a new layer, and we'll just call it. I'll just make a heart quick here, just so it gives you an idea. And so you can kind of space things out here. Oops. And this is what I like about the path tool. So you can see here, I'm starting to make a path under the paths layer thing here. So, oh, let's see. I gotta do this right now. We'll make a little heart. Oh, yeah. So whatever circle you've on last, that's where you'll. So click on this one, and I can finish this out. And then if you want to connect them, it's nope, Shift, Control out, Shift. Just hit Control, and you'll see on the has two little circle things. Oops, there we are. I'll get up closer. Might not be able to see that. Anyways, then it'll connect, and then these are connected, and you just go and click on to the next one. It's really all kind of experimental. We'll go out a little more here. Alright, so now you're wondering, how's she gonna get a heart out of that? Well, so then you take, you're still in there, you don't want to get out of here yet, and you just kind of click on and pull up, and so you make a heart. And we want this to be a little curvy, and these little arms here will help you to shape. So we don't want it to be too, so you can change it. You can make your heart kind of interesting. Let's see. So you just kind of work with these little handles here, and you change it. This is how I've made a lot of my stuff. There we go. Oops, and that happens, and you get an extra. You don't want that in there. You just gotta grab these handles, right? Sometimes it's a little tricky. This handle goes to this side. Alright, just kind of. All you have to do is just pull it out to get these handles to come out. So now this is this handle. Alright, oops, I got a bloop in my heart. So you can move these around just by grabbing them, move them around. Sometimes you won't know how everything looks until you actually. Okay, so we have a layer for the heart. So you go into your path tool. So you made your heart, and you're like, oops, no, that's kind of ugly there. I'm gonna try to fix that. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so you've made your heart, and you right click on to that layer in the path, and it says path to selection. Alright, so you've got it selected, but you can just stroke the path. So we'll unselect that for a minute. None path. It takes a little bit. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it takes a little bit to kind of get a hang of it. So you click down on stroke your path, and this is where it changes the width of your line, and then you can change your line to a pattern. In this case, we don't want it to be dotted, so we want a regular line. So you just click that on. There's a little down button there, and we just go to a straight line. I've made stitches this way, and actually you can custom do that too, and that's where you do some things here, and you can make custom lines that way. So okay, so then we don't want it red. We want a black line. So you always want to make the active foreground is whatever you're working on. So you put it in whatever color. We'll just do black because we want a line. And that did yellow. That did. See all this. Oh, maybe it's because it's highlighted. Let me go back here. Nope, it's not highlighted. See, you can highlight that. So why did it do white? Alright, good thing for edit stroke. Okay. Stroke path. We don't want it to be a pattern. We want it to be a solid color. Maybe that's where. Alright, check your line again. Yep. We want it to be just a straight line. Oh. Yep, I think that did that there. Now it's probably going to be pretty small. So you can just click out and that'll get rid of that, and we can kind of see. Well, you can see I have some bumps in there. Well, no worries. Just click that back on. Go back to your path tool, and you can, pick up. Oops. Edit understroke. Oh, I have this problem. Alright, come on, little handle. And you can change it. All you have to do is either make a new layer. You can delete this layer or undo your. See here, we did the handle changes. So undo visibility, undo stroke path, and you just go in and then fix it, unless it's being ornery, like it is now. That's why it takes kind of a while sometimes to do things. The mouse likes to get ornery. So, okay, so that's the path tool and the things you can do with that. So, let's see here. I'm just gonna delete some of those out. And go back here. And I'll go out a little bit. So, this is a color picker tool. So if you had a color in your picture and you have to be on that layer, like I clicked on my steel building there, and I've got this funny brownish beige color. Click on a black cow, the snow, whatever, and that what it does is just pick a color out, and so that's your active foreground color. I don't use this zoom tool that much. Measuring tool, I haven't really used this one. This is your move tool, and I showed that where you just see here is where we're kind of picking where we're gonna grab, and this gets kind of interesting sometimes. Is you think you've grabbed what you wanted and then you move a different layer. It can be a bit frustrating. You just gotta make sure that you go from the pointy finger to where you see actually the move tool, and then you can move whatever is in that layer you want to move. Alignment tool, I will just, oops, I haven't used this one a lot either. I mean, the basic tools I use are pretty. Crop tool, I've sort of used that one. It's just kind of cutting things out. So, I mean, actually it'll just undo your whole image to whatever. So if you want to trim your image, you can use that tool, but it'll trim the whole thing instead of just each individual layer. Let's see, rotate sometimes is handy. That's what this one is here. Rotate tool, so you can rotate it. You just set it back to reset. This one is the scale tool, and then you can kind of scale up and down, or maybe you just want it, if you want to just change one parameter, whether it be width or height, there's this little chain on the scale thing here. Unclick that, and then you can change, whatever you want independently, and it won't change everything. If you click it, then it will uniformly change everything. So then it'll stay a uniform, ratio, so to speak. Yeah, it'll be on Twitch. What I'll do is edit the video, and I'll put it on YouTube, because I have it'll be up on Twitch for 30 days, I think. I don't have Twitch Prime, so I think it's 90 days for that. Yeah, I used to be able to re-upload stuff, and I see they took that away, at least for freebie people like myself. So, yeah. But I'll try to edit it and I'll put it on YouTube. And people will just have to be tortured with the length of it. if they're interested. So a shear tool, this one's sort of interesting. This is where you take, and that's basically what you're doing, is just kind of changing. I use this a little bit, but really not that much. Let's see this. Handle transform, deform the layer. Yeah, I don't use that one a lot. Perspective tool I've used. It depends on what I'm doing. The flip tool, that's basically what that does. It just flips whatever you have. So if you have, well, like the ladybug, and you wanted to flip it, you can do it with that. Um, Cage transformation. I haven't used this one a lot either. It's not one I really use a lot. So then we have our letters, and then the bucket tool. This is a gradient tool, so we'll just, so it's like a color gradient. Okay, here. I'll just, so if you want to add a new layer, come over here, make sure you're in the layers. You go create a new layer, and you can name it whatever you want. We'll just call it gradient. I like to name my layers because then I won't get confused on what they're supposed to be. Gradient tool. So that's basically your gradient tool right there. And you can change, you know, you can do your own colors. You can do the set stuff they have here. You can do linear, bilinear, radial. Let's see. Oops. I'll try to get this to change a little bit. Something. There you go. Let's see what other ones they have. Square. Anyways, they have all kinds of things you can pick from here. It's just stuff to play with. Alright. We can get rid of the gradient. So then there's your pencil. It's like the paintbrush, but it's a thinner line. And then you can go, and Gimp you can make your own brushes too. And I've made a few of my own, and then some I've gotten off the internet. So pencil basically, you know, it's like drawing with a pencil. So you'd use whatever, and it'd be just a lot thinner. Oops, I got the coal. I don't want that. Let's go with this. Okay, edit, undo pencil. We'll just make a new. Alright. So you can change the size, angle, spacing. It's kind of the same with the brush. And the brush I use probably more than I do the pencil. Probably should use the pencil more on certain stuff. So like I've made my own brushes. I'll grab one here I made. I'll just pick one. Doodly doo. One I did actually make totally from scratch. Do I have any? Oh yeah, I'm sure I do. Well, some of my little applique things. Where's my ladybug? I turned my ladybug into a brush. Ladybug, where are you? Oh, ladybug, ladybug. I know I have her in here. Alright, I'll just pick one because I'm not finding the ladybug. I must be blind. She is tiny though. Okay, I'll just pick one. Here's a heart one. Oh my. Okay, no, it's alright. I'll just keep going. It's always fun to have somebody in the chat so you can, if they ask questions, you have something to go by. So, nope, if you gotta run away, no big deal. I'll just keep going. Alright, so the brush. So you just click, but you can change the size of it. Alright, so we have a big one here. Here's a little one. Just right. Yep, talk to you guys later. Don't get too much snow. Spacing, you could change the spacing. So that one made it closer. You can pull this out and it'll go farther apart. And let's see, these dynamics in the brushes change and do different things. I don't use a lot of these. Fade tapering is one I might use, and it's probably when you use the here we'll find a I'll get a new layer up there. I'm getting a frog in my throat. Okay, so fade tapering would be sort of like, yeah, did I change that? Boy, they've really, with this new one, they've really changed the how this works. Hmm. So spacing, let me go back down a little. Yeah, the brush seems to be a little bit better than what it has been in the past. I used to not have that kind of control on it. Um, Tilt angle. Let's take a look at that one. Sometimes you wouldn't have to use a lot of this stuff, but well, that might be work with a different brush here. I'll grab another one. I'll grab this heart. Let's see what we got here. Um, Angle tilt. Edit. So yeah, it changes spacing. Well, that seemed to just turned it upside down. That used to not be that way. Um, that's sort of weird. Velocity tapering. Well, there you are. So you can see the difference. So it's just kind of playing with everything and getting used to what everything does. Eraser will erase whatever you've done. So like I can erase, oops, well, I'll paint something first. Here we go, black. And then you go to the eraser and you can erase it if you want. Oh, I got it on velocity tapering. We'll go back to basic. That should, there we go. So that's the eraser. This is the airbrush. It kind of looks like an airbrush painting. Yeah, there's a little more control over the brush than there used to be. Gimp we didn't always have that good of control over the brush, so they've kind of worked on that. It looks like. Ink tool. Yeah. Some of these I don't use a lot of. Clone tool I might. It depends on what I'm doing. Healing tool. Clone tool is if you. I'll make this. Let's see. Put a different thing up here. Okay. I'll just put that up. And I'll pick something out here. There we go. Something else I made a. Oh. Oh. I gotta paint it first. Okay, so the clone tool would be if basically if you were fixing something, we'll take this out. If we were fixing something on this picture, we'll just say we didn't want this little bull to have such a hairy little belly button. So then you would make sure you're on the right layer and find something where you'd want. So you see that now. You hit Control, and then you go in, and you basically that's what a clone tool does. So if there's something that you want to fix, like Well, back this off here a little bit. Maybe we don't want this big cow turd in there. And so you can just clean it up that way. And then healing, it's kind of the same concept except for it takes what you do and it sort of fixes and makes it look like um, where you want it to be. So we can clean up the turds here. There'll be less turds in the way. Alright, and then perspective clone tool, I don't really use that one a lot. Blur and sharpen tools, I do blurring elsewhere. I have used the smudge tool. Smudge tool is basically, we'll just go in here and we'll kind of smudge around, maybe make that look not so bumpy. Alright, so that's the smudge tool, and then this dodge and burn tool. Uh, it should have, I sort of changed that a little bit. You can get a different brush. This one's a little softer. Um, they have changes dodge and burn. Usually, okay, so I think it's on burn right now. So it's what it's doing is making things darker. Um, burn tool, yeah. So I'll have to refigure this one out again. Okay, so dodge. Nope. That's kind of weird. We used to be able to change the mode on that, and now they've got it to where we don't. So that'll take a little bit of figuring out. I'm not finding, down here. So dodge would be lightening of it. There you can see. So we've lightened it. Alright, I would take that out. Gonna take me a little bit here. Okay. So we go up here. You can create under file. You can go create from clipboard, screenshot. I do screenshots a lot from here. I don't use a lot of the other stuff really. Open is just you open a file, go and find one. Open as layers, that's what we have here. These are all layers. So you would get a file that you wanted to open as a layer if you knew it had more layers. So like we can open up Photoshop images, PDS, I think it's PDS files. PSD. Let's see if I have any. I had Photoshop for a short while. I'm not finding one right offhand, but anyways, we can open up Photoshop files. This goes what you've opened up recently. You go back through. That's sort of a handy thing. So save, Gimp saves automatically in what they call an XCF file, and that's its default saving. So the layers, what it'll do is save all your layers. If you have layers, it'll save all of them, and then you can go back and fix them. Save as is basically same thing. So save as layers. If you want to save as anything else, you go export, and then you can change it to a PNG, a JPEG, whatever you want. Let's see what else is in here. Create a template, print. That's pretty much it here that I use. So in the edit, okay, so here's undo, redo buttons, cut, copy, copy visible. That means whatever is visible to your eye is what you'll copy. So like for instance, we see all this here. So we did copy visible. Go back in and go paste. We'll just say paste as a new layer. And that's sort of odd. Never had that do that before. Oh no, it did what I thought it did. There we are. So everything that was visible to our eye, this background wasn't visible. Um, so when all these are in there, this one didn't have anything in it, the gradient layer. So we had, we'll just move this down for now. So this is what we were basically seeing. Since the background is covered by this picture, it didn't copy that, so it wasn't visible, even though the eye was on. This is kind of what you can see, what you don't see. So you can shut a layer off if you're working on different things and you have something in the way. So basically what we did then is everything that was visible to the eye, and that's our new pasted layer. And of course, when you paste in a new layer, wherever you're at, it will put it in the next layer up from it. So everything we seen to the eye was then paste copied, and then you paste it in. If we just wanted to do one thing like farm update, we could still use, you know, you can still use copy, copy visible. I'm not sure what. Yeah, let's see here. Edit, paste as new layer. So all I did was the same thing, what it's seen. Um, so those are those things. Paste is just paste. So there's shortcuts for these. Control C, Control X, Control V, kind of basic same ones you'd use on your computer. Paste in place, paste the content of the clipboard in its original position. Paste into a selection, and that's what if you would have and you pasted it in there because you wanted it there. But I don't use a lot of that stuff because if you have something small like the ladybug, you can, when you bring it in or whatever, um, it can be moved with the move tool. So you can have a new layer, a new image. A new image would then do that, bring it up as a new image. So there's that. Let's see what else we got. Paste as a new brush. Haven't used that, or a new pattern. Those are other things you can add. Making your own patterns and brushes. Buffer. Not really used that one. Um, these are pretty straightforward. Fill with a pattern. Fill with, and you can do that through here. Also, let's see what else is there on that one. Yeah, that pretty much covers that. Select. So select all. Whatever layer you're on, that's what you'll be selecting. Um, select none takes that. So let's just say we wanted to um, select what was ever in here. The problem with the way this is right now, this layer, is it's just this one little piece. So when you select an invert, it'll kind of do some weird stuff. So then you might want to go up to the layer and layer to image size. Okay, then you see how that changed that. Alright, undo it. And so this is the border of that image, is what it amounts to. When you do layer to image size, then you get the whole image size, and then when you move it, let's see if we can show that. You can see how there's the border. Alright. Anyways, you move that back. And this helps actually to do this. Layer to image size. I know it's a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of things, and just covering it helps people figure things out. So when you layer to image size, that gives you the whole thing. So then you can do, like, you can see I slightly have a shadow in the background here. So you'd copy that. So this is copy. So in your layer thing, you can create a new one, a layer group. some people use that. I don't really use it. Here you can raise or lower, so you can see how I move these layers around. This is create a duplicate of the layer that you're on, and then don't use mask a lot. Don't use the anchor float, and then of course deleting just deletes it. All right. So we want to make a duplicate of that layer. Now the reason why I'm doing this, and we'll just rename this, call it shadow, because that's what I'm going to make with it. And you'd go up here to colors and invert it, and you can see there's black. Okay, so it's on top, but we want it to be shadow, so you drop and drag it. This, I mean, you can drop and drag, or you can move it down. All right, so there we are, drop and drag, or just move it up and down. All right, so we want this one at the bottom, and the reason why we want it, because we want it to be a shadow. So the easiest way to do that is go up into your next layer and just kind of move things so that you finally see that shadow effect. Now you can do a drop shadow effect. I sort of like doing it this way because a drop shadow is effect is only going to, it's going to be an, how do I want to say it? It's going to take and drop a shadow literally. So if you decided to move it or blur it or whatever, then all of a sudden you end up showing up some lines. If you do it the way I did it, you can go in and blur with Gaussian blur. And let's see if we can see this. I'll go up a little higher here. Alright, here we are. So you want to be on your drop shadow actually. Let's make sure we're there. Drop shadow, filters, blur, Gaussian blur. So what the Gaussian blur does is you can see that it sort of lightens it. Alright, there it is, not blurred. It's solid letters. We'll call it solid letters. Once you go up on that blur, and you can, depending on what you're doing, you can change this around. Alright, let's just do, alright, and then you hit OK, and we'll go back and see how that looks. Now you can make this darker if you want. You just duplicate the layer again and it makes it a little bit darker. Simple. Okay, let's see, view, that's basic stuff. Image, you might have, see we're in RGB scale, we could do grayscale. Some images might come up and you might not be able to do anything and change it till you change it to RGB scale. Transform, you can, and this would do the whole image, flip, rotate, etc. Canvas size, you can change the, that's the actual size of your image. You can, it would be actually the background, I believe is what it is. Scale image, this will change everything in, so we'll just go 1100. This is clicked, so it's, see, it's going to change that also, but say you want to leave it at 720 but you want it to be 1100, and then it's going down here, it's doing its thing. Scale, scale, scale. Alright, keep going guys, come on. Uh-oh, stalling out, stalling out. Shouldn't have been that big a deal. There we are. So then it just changed the whole thing into that size. So you come down here. Used to tell. Well, either way. Image, scale image. So now that's what it is. So we'll just click that back. Alright. Let's see what else is. Oh, guidelines are kind of another thing I use. So go to new guide. Alright, so what that does, we have a 1280 by 720. So we want to put a horizontal line in. So we divide the 720 by 2. And this would give you a halfway point. So 720, 360. Would that be right? if it looks like it's in the middle. Okay, so there's, so here we have, it's kind of a lining up line. This is, okay, kind of like that. So it's sort of called a filter, so you don't want to repeat the new guideline, but you can re-show new guide and then change this to vertical, and 1280 divided by 2 is 640. See if that looks all right. Okay, so then say we wanted to we had something that was off center. Let's see, let's make something off centered here. So what this helps, we'll just pull, say I accidentally moved this layer. All right, sir, you can undo it, undo. But if you have these lines in and you accidentally move this layer, all right, by accident, you can bring it back. See, there's a little cross sign there, and that's the middle of your image, and it'll line it right back up in the middle there. And so I use it sometimes as a lining tool or to break things up. Let's see, what else do we have? I think that takes care of most things that I use there. So layers are, as you see, merge down. So maybe we want to merge our white farm update layer with our drop shadow one. Or we doubled up the drop shadow to make it just a smidgen darker. And we want to merge it down. That's, we have that over here also in here. So you have all these things for each layer. Edit layer attributes, just renaming it. I don't use a lot of this stuff. Normally I use this for merging or layer to image, and pretty much, I mean, it's all here, what is up here basically, and you can use each layer. So I can merge this one down too if I wanted to, and then yeah, so you can do that here. I don't use stack a lot, don't use mask a lot. Transparency, so we might have an image. Let's see if this one is. Okay, I think this one might not be. So you go, so this picture of the calves is not a the transparency on it. Say I erased a part of it. Whatever this background color is what would come up. So we'll give a sample of that. Eraser. Okay. See. Alright. Now, if we add layer, okay, transparent, add alpha channel. So what that does is make it so there's no background to it, colored, which would be white in this case. So now what we're seeing is the red background there. I'll unclick that off. And when we erase, then we get an empty background. And that has its merits in being handy for different things a person might be doing. If you're cutting something out and putting it into something else, or like a PNG image is usually a transparent background, or is always a transparent background if you make it that way. So like if I wanted to just save this and I didn't want it to have a background on it, I would save it as a PNG. Then I could use that as a image that I could bring in anywhere, and I don't have to worry about a background, trying to cut the background out, etc., etc., and those kinds of things. So that would be why you would use add an alpha channel to something, or save an image that you make as a PNG. So you save it as a JPEG. It's going to have a background in it. It's not going to have a transparency. It's not going to be a transparent image. Transform. Of course, here's where you can flip things around. Transform, flip vertically, and this has it's handy for different things. Obviously not that, but rotate Of course, there's this rotating tool, but sometimes you just want to do a 90-degree rotate, and it's easier to do it from here. So, um, and that's usually what I use that for. So, well, undo, oop, and undo, flip. Okay. So colors. Now we get into color balance. I'm not sure. Oops. What? Yeah, that should have worked on there. Oh, let's. Depending on what you're using, this could be of help. Um, there we go. So you can change the colors, saturation, lightness, reset. Okay, cancel. Exposure. Just gonna play around with some of this. Brightness and contrast. That's one I might use a lot. If something seems too much contrast, not enough contrast, whatever, you can change that. Let's see, what else do I use? Curves. Now this will darken or lighten an image, or some piece of 2D art. You might need it for various things. You just kind of playing around with stuff is how you figure these things out. Invert, obviously, there we are there. So if you have a black or a white, it'll invert to the opposite color. There's a couple others. I don't use these a lot. Auto components, desaturate. I've used that on color to gray. Let's see. There we are. It'll make your grayscale. And some of these have preview abilities. So, alright, and then let's see what else. Image. Nope, back in colors here. Tone mapping. I haven't used a lot of this stuff here. Colorize might be handy. And so you would get in. Here's where you could change. The hue is where you would change colors. All right, and I think that comes under color balance. Color balance too. Of course, you go shadows, midtones, highlights. I think that pretty much covers most things I use out of there. Tools, basically what's all over here. Your paint tools, bucket, gradient, pencil, paintbrush, eraser, blah blah blah. Transform tools, and all of your selection tools. So if you want to know more what these tools are, you come in here and look at this. The paths tool, text, color picker, measure, zoom, toolbox. Okay, so the next thing I use a lot of is filters. Now these first two things are whatever the last thing you did will show up. So we did color balance last. And maybe we want to re-show it and do it again. We do a Gaussian blur. Alright, and then it'll come up. And that's the last thing we did. So we can re-show it, repeat it, whatever we want to do. Um, but it'll always show up as the last filter or thing that you did. So the different blurs, you have Gaussian blur. It's probably the biggest one I use. Linear motion one is another one I use, but it's for different effects. Some things that I do. Let's see. Don't use. I've used some of these. I don't use them a lot due to some of the things I do. Red eye removal. I'm not really sure how good or bad that works, but you can play with that. Distorts. Yeah, there's a lot of different things here. There we are. I mean, so you can get creative with things, and that's mostly what these filters are for. When you start getting into some of this other stuff, mosaic. So you got a mosaic look to your picture. Let's see here. Distorts. So that just shows you some of the polar coordinates and what people are probably wondering what you might use these for. It depends on what you're doing. Oh, probably shouldn't have done that one. This might take a while, so we'll just let it walk through. Um, if you're doing stuff for like 3D things or creating patterns, depends on what kind of art you're working on. But you might use some more of these stuff. I hope this thing don't stall out on me. Um, Doodly doodly doo. You can't do much until it's done. Uh, yeah, the more complicated an image is and you do things to it, the more time it might take to uh, do some of these things. Let's see, lens distortion, ripple effect. I mean, waves, whirl and pinch, wind. I mean, kind of what they say is what they do. Light and shadow, um, drop shadow. Here's where your drop shadow is, and there's a couple of different ones. Like I said, how I do my drop shadows is slightly different. Noise. These are I think I used some of them on my couple of my other GIMP videos that I've done, um, where you're making textures or kind of like fabric kind of things or whatever, and these come in handy for that. Just kind of quick. Didn't Yes, it's a little too not quite the right place to do that in. Edge effect. Just kind of play around with some of this stuff. Normal maps, person wouldn't actually use a lot of these unless you're doing stuff for 3D. Um, like applying a canvas, you might want your picture to look like it's a canvas painting, and so you'll do things like that. So that's kind of um, glass tile, soft glow. I mean, you just play. If you look at it and it doesn't look like that's what you want, um, oh, I'm probably gonna regret this now. Um, there we are. It's finally doing it. The more complicated your item is going to be that you're trying to do, the longer it'll take to do some of these things. Okay, and what it did is just added a layer. So if I take that out, there's your picture. So actually, some of this stuff you could do by hand if you wanted. Um, let's see here. Add a border. Okay, border color. Maybe we don't want that blue color. Maybe we want I don't know. Uh, Maybe a lighter, nah. Um, so you can change your colors around here a little. Let's just see what that looks like. Okay. And then what that did is give you a border, kind of like a picture frame is what it amounts to. Okay. Oops. So it does make other adjustments to your image. Um, let's see, where were we? Decor, border, coffee stain, old photo. These are kind of fun. Um, Here you are. There's your old photo effect. Um, so this made a totally new. It made a totally new image from the one. And sometimes some of the filters will do that. It won't use the same thing. It'll take that and make it a new image with it. Let's see. Yeah, skip that one. Skip that one. That one. Okay, so we went through those. So I showed a little bit of Gmec, I think, earlier. But then you can, let's see, we got clouds in there, crystal background. I mean, some of this is just, here's denim, but you'd probably not necessarily use that on that particular picture. You would put it on a different layer and then work all the little things here. Let's see here. Plaid. So if we made the cow picture into a plaid, that's essentially what it would look like. All right, and then oops, filters, reshow Gmix. Okay, so in Gmix here, since it's an add-on, but they're making it when you download Gimp, you don't have to add it in per se anymore. So you have all these different little filters. Well, there's 531 filters all total. And it's just a matter of going in and playing with them, see what they do, and then how can you apply it to whatever you're doing. So if you get into, making things, more of these will come in where you'll use them more. If you're just working with pictures, probably not as much. Here, let's see, black and white stencil, black and white. Um, as you can see, it's not color anymore, it's black and white. Charcoal, let's see, emboss, engrave. Um, so people have created these, which is kind of cool. Here's this, let's see, look at this pencil portrait, okay, and then pencil. So, I mean, you get an idea here. Basics of GIMP get you started. This was just something fairly easy. Take a picture, add add some letters to it. But I wanted to go through most of the stuff in GIMP, so this will probably be a little longer. So people sort of kind of could navigate through it. That's basically a run through in GIMP of most all the tools that I use. There's more there. It depends on how fancy a person gets. You can learn more of the tools and things of that sort. And I'll put down the GIMP website in the description. Other than that, I think that covers everything. And you take care.